Hello, I'm Karen Scott, and this is my farm, Oakwoods Farm. We are a four-season farm here. We grow lettuce year-round in 4 high tunnels. We started our farm 10 years ago. We went to a workshop and saw lettuce growing in a high tunnel in the dead of winter, and we were hooked. We were just all of a sudden hooked and decided that we could do that too. So we've been growing greens and other vegetables here ever since. Lettuce is our main crop. It's what we grow the most of. It has fertility requirements, not too much nitrogen. It does like a light soil with lots of tilth. We select different varieties for growing in different times of the year. So spring is a different variety versus the real heat of summer versus the really, really cold winter season. We start all of our lettuce and greens from transplants. We seed mostly into the paper chains for the paper pot transplanter, but for our head lettuce, we seed those into 1020 flats. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, we plan on transplanting those into our high tunnels. We do a soil test, and based on that soil test, we adjust the fertility for lettuce. And then our bed prep is very simple. We really are a no-till farm. So when we turn our beds over, it really is just with a wheel hoe, a stirrup hoe that we just go back and forth through the beds, just enough to get some light tilth to transplant the lettuce into. We also put in a cover crop from time to time, and then we will incorporate that into the soil actually with tarps. So we just let time and heat do the work of letting that decompose into the soil, and that adds quite a bit of good organic matter for lettuce. Lettuce does require quite a bit of organic matter in the soil. So we don't plant into plastic, and there are 2 reasons for that. One is dragging the paper pot for the lettuce mix prohibits the use of any sort of plastic, any sort of planting into that plastic. And then all the hand transplant for like the lettuce heads, those are not on plastic either. We just find that a couple of quick cultivations, 2 weeks after planting and then another 2 weeks after that, really knocks down the weeds. We have an occasional weed here and there, but if you stay on top of those 2 first cultivations, you won't have a weed problem. And the lettuce stays clean because, again, we're using drip irrigation, and we're also feeding the lettuce using drip irrigation too, or through our drip lines. So it stays pretty clean, very easy to wash and pack. So variety selection for the different seasons. The seed catalogs will give you good guidelines for what grows well in which seasons. So that's going to be hot versus cold. Salanova we do grow year-round because that's our main lettuce mix. But as far as the head lettuces go, we don't grow any romaine in the wintertime. We have not found a variety that does well all winter long. It tends to freeze, and then the main stem explodes, which spoils the whole head of romaine. So romaine we grow spring, fall. We do grow that in the summer as well. And then Cherokee is another head lettuce, red Cherokee, that does really, really well. Spring, summer, it really holds up to the heat in the summertime. Flavor stays good. And then Mirror is another one that we grow in the spring and the summer. In fall, I like to switch over to Salvias, which is romaine. Of course, we start that in the summer and harvest it in the fall. And then there's Tropicana and Green Star leaf lettuce that we like really, really well, that we find does better in those seasons. So in the springtime, we just pretty much transplant in at either 6-inch by 6-inch spacing or a 12 by 12 for the head lettuces. We'll grow that densely through the spring and summer seasons. When we get to fall, we actually want to spread those plants out, so we'll actually double that spacing. And that's because of the low light. The sun sits very low on the horizon in the winter time. They're not getting a lot of light, so we want to space those plants out so that they get as much light as possible, and it's a lot cooler, so we want them to also have more airflow in the winter months so that we can avoid diseases like sclerotinia and other diseases. As far as pests go, coming out of the winter time and into the spring, we have a flush of aphids. We try to keep that population under control with beneficials like ladybugs. I am seeing a tremendous amount of ladybugs, but sometimes we just have to knock that down, and we'll use an organic neem oil is really, really good, and pyganic are mostly the two that we use. Winter care of lettuce. It's not really warm. It's very cool. So the crops don't dry out, and they're growing very, very, very slow. So they don't require very much water at all. We might water maybe once a month, versus in the summertime when we're giving them a little bit of water every day when it's very, very hot, and they're growing tremendously fast. Since we're growing lettuce year-round, we have a succession planting plan based on the seasons. So in high summer, the lettuce is maturing very, very quickly. So we're turning those beds over pretty fast. So we're seeding lettuce weekly. We are seeding lettuce weekly and transplanting. As the days start to get shorter and we move into the cooler part of the season, the lettuce starts maturing much slower. So in September, we really try to make sure that we have our houses full of lettuce to go into the winter season. So we want to make sure that they're at least 3/4 mature by the time the day length drops below 10 hours. So, and the lettuce will hold. It will just sit here waiting for us to harvest it all winter long during that time period. So again, we have one big transplant in September. We market our lettuce at 2 different farmers markets that are open year-round. The traffic is a little slower in the wintertime, but that is a Webb City Farmers Market and Joplin Empire Market. We also do farm to school, and there really is a demand for fresh, local grown lettuce in our local schools. So that's been a really good sales channel for us. And I am happy that to get fresh, local, organically grown produce into the kiddos' bellies. Other places that we market is natural food stores. We sell from the farm. We have a farm stand here during the summer months. And then we are online as well. So you can order online, and then we'll drop off at different pickup locations. So lettuce harvest. So we typically harvest the day before we take lettuce to market. Depending on if we're picking a lettuce mix or just for head sales, we use different techniques. Our main lettuce mix variety is Salanova, and we will either harvest that whole head and take it to the wash pack area and process it from there, or we'll cut the leaves in the field here and then create our mix as we're picking our bins. The head lettuce, we just harvest as whole heads. Those go into bins, and then they're moved to the cooler. For both types of lettuce, we do like to chill them as quickly as possible year round. So we want to get those into the cooler year round, and then we'll leave those in for 24 hours. So we're harvesting the day before, we're processing, and then we're taking to the market. So we sell our lettuce mix in half-pound bags, and then our head lettuces are sold as whole head. And the same for, we do add other greens and spinach and mustard greens to our lettuce mix, and we call it our market mix, and it's pretty popular. So to wash, we have a 3-bin system where we harvest the lettuce, we wash the lettuce, so that goes into the first bin, and then we put it into a sanitized bin, and then it goes into a rinse bin, and then we spin that out. Currently we're just using a 5-gallon lettuce spinner, or for the head lettuce, we're just letting that drain. And then we pack the lettuce mix in half-pound bags, and then we pack the head lettuce in, those are just sold by the head for market. For schools, those are larger quantities, and so we package that in 2.5-pound bags for them. When we deliver that to them, we just take it right into their coolers, and then they pull it whenever they need it. So mostly it is my husband, partner, and I that farm full-time year-round. In the summertime, we bring on 2 hands, and they're young people from the local area that are really interested in farming. So that motivates us to get them started. I have written schedules for them, work instructions, plans for what they're going to do every day. I think it's really helpful to set a framework. I stopped calling it a plan, a framework for what their day is going to look like. It really helps guide them if they know what the next thing to do is going to be. And then the young people, they do require supervision, and so either my husband or I are just out helping to guide the work, and it just to keep things moving along. But again, the written work instructions help quite a bit. So this is how we grow lettuce here in Southwest Missouri. Different climates, different farmers, different farms. You'll probably do things slightly different, but this is what works for us here. And just some takeaways: soil prep really helps, and fertility helps. Those knowing your fertility helps these plants grow very, very quickly. We do want to grow them quickly for the best flavor. We use row cover for protection in the wintertime when the weather gets really, really, really cold, to protect them or give them a little more warmth. We use shade cloth in the summertime when it's really, really hot, and make sure that we're venting fully in the summertime just to keep it a little cooler. But I think every farmer's location is going to be slightly different.
Everything that we sell here is sold wholesale. We sell directly to grocery stores and to about 5 restaurants. When we started, the first couple of years the farm was a CSA, and I thought that was really difficult. There were a lot of vegetables that I wasn't good at growing. And we moved down here, we relocated from the St. Louis area to Southwest Missouri. I did farmers markets, but I wasn't making enough money there to make it worthwhile. And I started taking that surplus produce to some grocery stores, and then immediately I just switched completely to that model. We certified the farm organic at the same time to give us an edge in those grocery stores. We had records for the farm already, so we didn't have to go through that 3-year waiting period. Most of the produce is going out, most of our salads going out in those 5-ounce retail bags. We are doing that. It's mostly me here. My wife helps me bag for a few hours a week, but other than that, it's pretty much a one-person operation. If I was to go back to farmers markets now, I would have to diversify the farm, which is inevitably going to be more work for me. So about 75% of what I'm doing is the baby salad mixes, and we're doing some bunched grains. We'll do more of that next year. It'll be a larger part of the business. But right now, I deliver twice a week. It takes me 2.5 hours to deliver. And if I was going to do a farmer's market, I would have at least that much time in the farmer's markets. And I don't think that I would make as much in one farmer's market as I do in 2 wholesale deliveries. So I do work a lot here, but I've worked this system to where it's a stable, reliable income. My customers are really consistent. Their orders don't really vary much from week to week. So I've really focused on being having a consistent supply year round. When I started with winter production, it was to make more money so that we could have, just more months of growing vegetables. Now, I don't see it the same way. I definitely make more money in the summer. The baby greens in the summer are 15 days from seed to harvest. And this bed next to us took 10 days to germinate. And it will probably take another 50 days or a couple weeks before the summer solstice. It's probably going to take another 50 or 60 days for that crop to mature. So nowhere else in agriculture would you be looking to get a yield reduction or a time reduction by a factor of 4 or 5. But I continue to do it because it really cements our relationship with our stores and our restaurants, because they see us every week. When our stores run out of our salad, customers complain to them, customers call because they know what days we deliver, which seems weird to me, but we really have built up a relationship in those areas. So we do it every week just to hold on to that. And I work too many days a week. I do typically work an 8-hour day, but I don't get as many days off as I would like. But it's gotten almost so routine that it feels like a salary, because our customers are so reliable and there's pretty much the same amount of salad going out every week. So when I expanded into salad greens, it wasn't because I necessarily wanted to grow salad greens. It was because I saw the biggest demand there. We kept selling out of it and stores kept wanting more. So we really upped our game with the packaging and labeling of that. But I'm growing salad greens every week of the year. That's a mixture of the baby greens here and the multi-leaf lettuces here. And that comes out to, over 90 crops of salad a year. I'm planting baby greens twice a week. I plant lettuce. I don't plant lettuce in the middle of winter. I am still planting the baby greens, but I plant lettuce once a week through most of the year. And if I was to specialize in tomatoes, it would take me a lifetime or longer to get that many crops of tomatoes and that experience built up. So, over the years, I've done 1,000 crops of salad greens now, probably getting close to that. So I've gotten the schedule really down. But if I was to go back to farmers markets, there's no way that I could sell as much in salad greens as I do wholesale. I would have to have a table full of at least a dozen or more varieties of vegetables. So since I'm out here working alone, when I come out here to harvest, this is my only focus. This is my only focus on seeding. I'm in high tunnel, so I know that throughout the year I need to seed every Wednesday and every Saturday. Those are my days. I'm harvesting the same days every week, and it's made things more routine. It's impossible to forget to plant because I'm doing that every day. And I see a lot of farmers fall behind with successions because they have so many different things going on that they're too busy picking carrots that the seeding didn't get done. Well, the seeding has to get done for that crop to grow and be harvested.
Right now we're going to focus on getting your paper pots ready to plant. So Jason, could you kind of explain to us how you put together the paper pots and fill them and the seed prep and all of that in it?
Sure. This is the paper chain here. This is a 6-inch spacing. So to get these ready for planting, you have to insert the spreader rod down this side here. There's a little opening under this white piece of paper. Slip one in both sides. That allows you to open it fully. And we can mount it here. So this is not symmetrical. There's a tab that's set inward. It's going to correspond with the paper chain. We're going to spread it and mount it to the frame here. There's a tab that's set inward, and that is going to correspond with the last cell at each corner. So once it's mounted, we can pull these out. And we can flip that over, put it in our tray. Using a seed starter mix here. It's a very fine mix. We're going to spread it pretty evenly over the tray. And work it into the edges. And I have found that if the potting mix isn't packed in tight enough, when you remove this framework, the chain seems to shrink. And then your dibbler doesn't work and your seeder doesn't work. So I'm going to drop it. I wouldn't normally do that with a 10-20 tray, but you really need it pretty firm in the paper chain. Okay, now once it's filled, you can remove your frame, and it should hold its original shape and size. This is the dibbler board that comes with the set. We're going to place this on here, line it up in the corners so that we can dibble each cell. Press down on it evenly across the tray. And now we have a space for each cell. Looks like I got a little light in the middle. And the flex in the table. There we go. Now we can put a seed in each cell. This is the seeder that's available. It really works better have extra seed on the plate. I'm going to roll the seeds around until there's one in each cell. Double check it. Let all the seed go to the corner. We're going to position the holes over the dibbles we just made. Tray is even with the dibbles. We're gonna line the seeder up with the marks left from the dibbler. Check our corners. The goal is to get those holes right over the dibbles, and they seem to line up pretty perfectly. We just push this seed plate in, and we have one seed per cell.
So now this is ready for water, and then it goes to our germination chamber. Even germination is exceptionally important on this because any gaps in this tray are gonna end up as gaps in the row once it's planted. I found that the paper pots really unravel a lot nicer if the trays are soaking wet. So I have this extra large greenhouse tray here. Before each tray goes in the ground, I'm gonna soak it for a few minutes to make sure that it's fully saturated, and then the paper will come apart very easily. I had found that even trays that I thought were watered pretty well with overhead watering, once they were coming off the transplanter, they pulled just enough to where it would yank them out of the ground a little bit, and then it wouldn't bury the edges at all. So I fought with that for quite a while before I realized that they really need to be fully saturated. Okay, well that first tray soaks, we're gonna set up the machine. This is just a twig that I picked up on a walk down to the high tunnel, and I'm gonna break this into 3 or 4 inch pieces so that we can anchor each cell to the ground. Now we're going to set the machine up and we're going to test it on this bed before we actually start to plant. So back here is adjustable. It has little paddles back here for burying the edges. So we're going to adjust those in and do a quick dry run to see how the soil flows. Okay, it's a little too deep, so we're gonna back these off. The soil's pretty loose, so I'm actually gonna set those behind the wheels a little bit. Try it again. That looks right to me, that it'll cover the root ball without burying the lettuces. For our bed prep, I prepped this bed a couple weeks in advance. So we've tilled it and gotten ready for planting, but then we've put down the drip irrigation and covered it with this plastic. Watered the bed and let all the weeds germinate. Then we've removed all of this for right now and come back with a flame weeder. I had found that, good bed prep is always important anyway, but with the paper chains especially, if you have to cultivate those in the first week or two, your hoe tends to catch those and pull them back out of the ground. So you really need to be ready with a weed-free bed. This tray is ready to go on the cedar. It's important to point out that root pruning is really important on these. So I've grown this on a table with just a table made out of mesh. So there's lots of air pruning. There's really not a lot of roots that are growing through the bottom. I've seen growers that have used these that didn't set it up for that, and before they plant them, they're literally scraping the roots off so that they unravel easier without catching on that. So to load these on here, you need to flip this up. We're gonna peel these paper chains up and get this little ramp under there. We're gonna remove the plastic on the end, and we're just gonna set this over here. We're gonna find our first cell. We're gonna unravel that. I'm gonna make a little furrow here with my hand. Okay, in a lot of videos I'd watched with the paper pot transplanter, you need to anchor this in the ground. A lot of the growers are using a harvest knife or a screwdriver. I'm just going to use these little sticks so I don't have to retrieve them later. I've got a bunch here so we can get through this planting with just a pretty quick motion. So I made a little furrow here with my hand, and I've set the first one in and anchored that first cell with a stick. Now I'm gonna unravel the first maybe dozen, and I'm gonna set them to the side. So the tray is wet, so the paper peels apart pretty easily, but it's really important just to think that if this anchor is holding this tight and it takes maybe a 1/4 pound of pressure to pull these apart, this first seedling doesn't weigh a 1/4 pound, so it's going to pull it out of the ground. So we're going to unroll these first 12 or so there's zero resistance until all those are in the ground.
So these two transplants here are out of this rock. So it's normal to have to go back and fix a few things like that. We just put in 264 cells in 2.5 minutes, and then I had them pull one section pull out that I had to go back and fix. That probably took a couple, maybe 2 or 3 more minutes. So total, probably 5 minutes to put in this 264 cells. By hand, I can do 600 transplants an hour. So I'm not sure how much that increases my efficiency, but it's a lot. This is not as precise as I had thought that it would have been. Seems that I've put in probably 60 trays with this paper pot now, and I'm very rarely do I get a full tray where I don't have to go back and fix a little something, but even with all of that, it still saves a tremendous amount of time.
Today we're going to walk through how we package our retail bags of salad mix. Right now we're in my wash pack shed. This room is about 225 square feet, and in here we package about 250, maybe 300 pounds of salad a week, every week of the year. After harvest, produce is usually put in the walk-in cooler, typically harvesting the day before we wash and pack. It just makes wash pack day a little easier. But when produce comes in, we're triple washing everything. So it goes into tank 1 as a pre-rinse. The second tank is a sanitizer. Third tank is just chlorinated water that meets drinking water standard. I think that puts it at less than 4 parts per million of chlorine. We're transferring from tank to tank. The big strainer. Mix it, needs to sit in here for a couple minutes, and then it goes to the final tank. When they come out of the final tank, they're going into these these are fish baskets. There's a closet flange or a toilet flange installed in there with a piece of PVC so that it will sit over the agitator of a stripped down washing machine. And that's a standard household clothes washer that's been sanitized. This is our retail packaging. We're using a 9x12 poly bag. We've got our tear set here for the bag. I think it is best that after salad comes out of the washing machine, out of the spinner, excuse me, we put it in these crates. They're typically full. They hold about 10 pounds. These will sit in our cooler until we're done washing for the day. So we have about 5 or 6 varieties we're washing every day. The first variety that gets spun, ideally will be the first one that we bag. And the process behind that is that it has sat open in the cooler for several hours, and any of the excess moisture has dried off naturally so that it doesn't make water droplets inside the bag. I see a lot of growers that are using drying tables with fans. A fan in a commercial kitchen would not usually be acceptable because it will bring dust up off the floor. So we don't have any fans in here, no fan drying. Okay. Each bag is 5 ounces. Perfect. If you do several hundred bags every week for years, they tend to come out almost perfect every time on the scale. This is an impulse sealer. I just picked these up on Amazon. I think they're about $50. Seals the top of the bag. We have our label that we've had created for us. We hired someone to do that for us. It peels off of there. And then on the back, it gets an ingredient label with a lot number. I'm working in a pretty tight space here, and this is an old pole barn that's been converted. So the floor is really rough. It's pretty hard to clean this space, but I think that a lot of what I'm doing here could be done in a simpler space. I've seen people wash salad outside, but our biggest thing is that nothing can touch the floor and the tables are sanitized every time that we're in here. So our food surface areas are the tabletops, these containers, the baskets. You did see me seal the bag on a cardboard box because it lifts up the bag 1.5 inches, which is important so that it lays flat. But we're using so many bags that I am getting a new box out each time that we're in here. I'm always wearing clean gloves. And really I started doing that because there's just so much washing that it dries my hands out. But now it's just become routine that our salad is never touched by bare hands. The triple washing is something that we do. Most farmers don't. I've seen one study that pointed to the fact that E. coli grows so readily on the sap of leafy greens that it can enter the plant and reproduce within the leaf. So it cannot be washed off. We're growing exclusively in high tunnels, but it's still not completely free of wildlife. Sometimes you come in there and maybe a groundhog or something has gotten under a baseboard. We've had to screen all of our tunnels because we had deer getting in. And we exclude as much as we can, but you can never say that what you're harvesting is completely clean before it goes in the water. So what I'm really trying to do is make sure that if anything is missed, that it's gone through a pre-rinse and a sanitizer tank, and then a third rinse to get the sanitizer off. We do have windows and doors in here. I always keep those closed when there's product in here. Early on, I did come in from the field and fill a tank completely full of salad. I think there was 50 pounds in the wash tank. I'd been harvesting for hours. I went inside and got a cup of coffee, left the door open and came back, and a bird had flown into the window, broken its neck and fallen into the tub of water in a matter of a few minutes. So as a matter of course now, doors and windows are closed all the time. All of that salad had to be thrown out, and the whole room had to be sanitized because there were feathers everywhere. But salad is a raw food. There's always some risk associated with raw food. So we try and keep everything as clean as possible. On our back label, which you'll see in another frame, there is a lot number, which I believe is now required by FSMA. Our lot number today is 349 because it is the 349th day of the year. And then if we have to do a product recall for any reason, then we can call back that lot. And it also lets our customers know, once we have them trained, how they can rotate this on their grocery store shelves.
This video series has been funded by the Missouri Department of Agriculture Specialty Crops Block Grant, and also in collaboration with University of Missouri Extension, Lincoln University Extension, and Webb City Farmers Market. For further information, you can go to webcityfarmersmarket.com. We hope this video series will help you learn to grow one more crop and add a little bit more income on your farm.